Hey folks, welcome back. Today we'll be discussing some more Kingdom Under Fire 2 news that popped up yesterday. During the day there was multiple live streams on both Twitch and YouTube popping up throughout. Gameforge hosted a pre-launch event inside a castle located in Germany, which of course, those of you who went, you lucky bastards. And during this event, the guests had the opportunity to try out an early build of the game, although it's said to still need work on the localization side. During their gameplay, we were able to see how several things were still not translated, specifically the cash shop items that we could see. But to break it down piece by piece though, most of their streams began in the tutorial zone of Azelia Castle, where you get the opportunity to learn a bit more about the storyline and mechanics of Kingdom Under Fire 2 while being on the front lines of a siege. As it progresses, you get to experience the movement, blocking, and dodging abilities. It pits you up against a big monster to get a baseline example of how it will be to defend yourself in the world. When the tutorial is over, they get thrusted into the open world portion of Kingdom Under Fire 2. Despite the fact that most of the footage you see in Kingdom is on one, it does not all start on the battlefield with hundreds of troops under your command right out of the gate. You have to progress your character through questing and even missions, while slowly learning how to become a commander to reach that point. Something I've grown to admire from this game is that it doesn't just focus on one specific aspect of content and leave you to it for the rest of your experience. In this one, there are a few different roads to go down instead of one. As the streamers progressed, we got to look at a showcase of the questlines, the combat system from multiple point of views. We even got to take a look at some of our own skills for our character, which seemed pretty extensive, including our masteries, combo list, and various different strategy and passive skills. When you start to progress further into the game around the early levels, we start to get access to units and learning how to command them. It's interesting watching the game go from that MMORPG perspective into this battle commander mode. Really gives off the feel that it's not just an MMO, but really captures that RPG aspect very well. Some of the streamers were even able to get a look at the mounts menu to showcase what they would look like. We got some pretty interesting ones from the looks of it, ranging from horses to warboars to even actual beasts. Saw at least a few that were being described as dinosaur mounts in there. Past that, we did get to see some people check out the Cubics and Diamond Shop. So far, it appears to be confirmed by Gameforge that Cubics will only be earnable through in-game activities like missions, as we talked about before. And it appears that you're able to use them to buy different things like repair kits, boosters, and some more. For the appearance shop, we also did get a look at some of the costumes, which do look pretty sweet so far. But in terms of the Diamond Shop, which is said to be purely cosmetic, everything from that section was currently hidden. That's going to be the new cash shop section, and although Gameforge has stated they won't be putting anything in there that will give you a certain advantage over others, it was a cause of concern for some players in the community. Me personally, I've seen a few cases where games would do that sort of thing, hide what's real in the cash shop until the game launch, and most of the time it's turned out just fine. But since they haven't localized everything, it could potentially be related to that too, although I would have preferred to see what was in there as well before the launch day if I'm being honest. Aside from that, we also learned a few new things I'm sure a lot of the old server players already knew, but when it comes to creating a guild, it appears that there will be two different factions to choose from. In the most recent screenshot we obtained, the factions were called Protection Alliance and Revolution Coalition, but I've heard that the Coalition may go by a different name that the players are already branding it as. Some players call it the Dark Legion, and this marks the faction of the Orcs/Dark Elves, so essentially it will be good versus evil. Speaking of the races and factions, we did get a look at some of the units list, and it turns out that there are in total 3 different human factions, 2 different elven ones, 4 different orc-based ones, and 1 dark elf-based one, housing over 125 units from this build, which is a crap ton to say the least. And apparently it's been said that they plan on adding even more, alongside some pretty cool news that there was mention of a new class being worked on by the name of Dark Sorcerer. Currently this class is under NDA, so we were not able to obtain that much information on it, but rest assured, we should be able to expect some more details about a class like this in the future. Speaking of upcoming content, it's also been said that they will in fact be working on that 16-man raid we talked about in a previous video, so right at launch we probably won't have access to it, but it'll really be fun to experience when we do. From what I've heard, that raid was very hard in other regions, and we may get to experience a really neat mechanic that existed in other regions called Divine Protection. This was a mechanic heavily tied to in-game gear and raids, and will be very awesome to go over if they reincorporate it into our version. Also for the console players, we don't seem to have any information just yet for your version, but I would stay tuned on that because we might get some more details on it sometime after launch. And one of the last things we can go over seeing other than what we talked about so far is the mission loot system. When you complete a PvE mission, it appears you're able to choose from random cards to have a chance of getting a randomized reward. After that, you can choose to open a chest for extra rewards, and the premium booster found in the shop may or may not have an effect on this. One thing to keep in mind though is that even though we are coming into this game with the booster already in hand, the cubics will be earnable in game. Therefore, as a free player, you are able to earn your own premium as well. Other than that though, so far that's all we have to go over related to the game, but it was good to see an early preview of it to find out how things would work out before we reach the launch stage, at least in terms of the mechanics and overall outlook on the game, so that we can put our minds at ease for the next week until we get to launch. Be sure to note at this point that Kingdom Under Fire 2 has also been spotted on Steam. However, if you want to get the game on that platform, it appears that anyone who has pre-ordered the game on the site up to this point will not be able to convert to the Steam version, which does suck too, because myself, like many others, probably would have loved to convert to the Steam launcher. But aside from that, thank you all very much for watching, and I hope you have a good night or day. Farewell.